This is a restoration of a 1953 NSU Quickly. This is the particular model here. It's a 1953 NSU Quickly N. Now, I just purchased it recently and there are a few things incorrect on the machine. The tank is incorrect, the seat is incorrect, there should be rubber springs, but it's one of the more modern types. The handlebars have been cut. I'm not sure if they're actually the original ones. They may be, but somebody cut it off here, possibly to get the clutch lever etc. off. They couldn't get it off, so they cut it. The main nuts holding here are missing. The rear wheel is the correct wheel because it is it's a painted wheel. The front wheel is possibly not the correct wheel because it's chromed, and the first bikes didn't have chrome wheels on them. So the first thing I'm going to do there now is I'm actually going to take the handlebars off. I'm going to take off that nut there and that nut there, and that's going to release the handlebars. Now they're the two bolts that I've just removed from there. So I must now take off. This is the throttle going down onto the carburetor there. So I must take that off next. Right, what I'm actually doing there now after taking off the handlebars, I don't want to cut the cable if I can help it. It looks pretty good. I might reuse it. It's the original cable. So I'm actually taking off the carburetor because I can't get it to come out of the carburetor at the present time, so I've taken off the nuts here and I've taken off the carburetor. Right, to get the throttle off of the handlebars, you have to undo that screw there, and hopefully I'll be able to pull it out. Right, it came off very easily off of the handlebars. So now I can put them away. I'll try taking out the cable out of the carburetor itself just to separate them. Right, I've managed to get the handle off there. It was a bit of a struggle, but I got it. Inside there you can see there's a small little piece. I'll take it out. Now, that hole there should be a grub screw inside in that hole. That goes in there like so. The grub screw comes up through it and holds it in place. Then the throttle fits in like so. And the throttle cable comes up there. I'm having trouble getting the end of the cable out of the carburetor, and on the first NSU Quicklys, which this is one of the first ones, the frame number is 4374, and they all had a 191 carburetor. You can see it there probably. It's marked 191. Next thing I'm going to do now is take off this petrol tank, which is the incorrect petrol tank. This is a 4.5 litre. There should be a peanut tank on this one, so I have to open that there to get it off, and it swivels on that little pin there, which is through the frame. Right, that's the nut off of that there now, and the tank strap comes up like so. It's pivoted here, and you can then take off the tank. Normally there's two rubbers underneath two of these, and they also serve the purpose that a cable can actually run along that groove there. Somebody else put on something else as the second one. Get the tank strap off, pull out this pin. So that's that off. I'm going to take off the mudguard next now. Normally you would have to undo two bolts, one at each side, and this is broken, and they would be attached there with another bolt, same at the other side, but it's just sitting there so I can take it off. So that's the mudguard off. I'm now going to try and take the chain off. I'm looking for the link on it, but I haven't found it yet. And then I'll take the engine off. Right, I haven't been able to find any link on it, so I'm going to have to take off the back wheel and first and undo this nut here and another one at the other side. Actually there's none at the other side, I'll just drive it out. So we'll do that next. Just looking at it there, it's 17mm spanner. And there's a spacer. Normally that spacer would be inside, behind that there, in there. So I'll just drive that now with a... Now that's the chain tensioner at that side. There's another one at the other side. I loosened the bolts on them there to get them off. So once I drive the bar through now, the wheel will come off. I forgot to undo the brake mechanism here. That's the brake bar going to the pedals. When you pedal backwards, it operates the rear brakes. So now that's the rear wheel off. I have to undo this nut here now to get at the brake mechanism internally. I'm undoing the nut there now, taking off the saddle. So that should get it off. That's the saddle off. And the saddle is for a later model, it's not for this model. There should be rubber springs in it. So we'll have to source one. Okay, I think I'll take the engine off next. To get at the bolt, you have to take the carburetor off. There's the bolt there, coming through that side. They're unusual as well in that it's an 11mm spanner. I'm having to use an 11mm spanner for the nuts themselves, which is unusual. So now that's the engine removed. Just 3 bolts, and we can see on it it's 1953. Now somebody has cut off the top of this as well. I'm going to have to try and replace that if I can get it out. Next thing to do now is to take out the air filter. There's a little bolt at the opposite side there which I have to open, and there's a screw on that. Right, that's the whole air filter out there now. There's a slotted head on the bolt. There's a little bolt on the end which keeps that in place at the rear side, and this is the air filter itself, which is normally soaked in oil. and it came out of there, like so. Now the next piece I'm going to take off is these bolts here, which will release the light, and this mechanism here. And then I'll take off the wheel. Right, that's the bolts are out there now. So the two items should come off pretty easily. I need two hands. Okay, that's that piece after coming out. And the lamp should come out then as well. I need two hands again to get it out. I want to undo all the nuts, bolts holding the mudguard on first before I take the wheel off. At the mudguard, but I'll actually take the wheel off because there's a bolt in here which goes right through the mudguard. So to get at it I need to have the wheel off, and I also need the wheel off to get at those bolts there. That's the front brake cable down there, and this is it coming up through here. And there's a little hole there where it comes up. Now to get the spindle out that goes through the wheel itself, you have to loosen these. They're 12mm nuts, there's one at each side, otherwise you won't be able to drive that out. They have to be loosened. Now that's the front wheel off. As you can see now, there's a bolt up there for the mudguard, and we're now able to get at these bolts here. These are the greasing points as well. I'm just undoing the front brake mechanism there, which has to be undone with an 8mm spanner. Right, it's finally off there. We can now take off the brake, and that can pull down. I'll definitely have to replace the brake cable anyway, it's all shredded. Now I've just spent probably the bones of an hour and a half to 2 hours trying to get this nut to come off. It's very difficult because if you don't have the right spanner, but even if you do, you'd really want a box spanner. There must have been a special tool for getting this thing off, but I've managed to get it off with a vice grips and an adjustable spanner eventually, so it's now loose enough to come off. So there's all ball bearings inside here. All these ball bearings have come out already, and they're inside the jar there. I may have dropped one or two of them on the ground, but I have spare ones anyway. So there's another selection of ball bearings in here. This swing arm is going to come off now when I'll take this nut off. Now that's the swing arm off. I think I got all the ball bearings that were there. Yeah. So we can take this cover off here now. And this is the internal race that keeps the ball bearings in place. It has a groove on it. And there are the ball bearings. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. There should be 21 on top, 21 on the bottom. And I think I've only got 19 inside there, so I've lost 2. And I've just seen one of them. There we are. So the other fellow's around somewhere. So that's it. On the more modern Quicklies, there's normally a plate here that gives the make of the Quickly, the year it was manufactured, and it gives the frame number and the weight of it and all that sort of thing. In the 1953, 54, 55, and I'm not sure about 56, but 53, 4 and 5, the frame number was always stamped here under the saddle stock. Always stamped there. I've just managed to get the seat tube out there now with the vice grips by constantly pulling at it. As you can see, somebody had cut off the top off of it. There should be a bolt going down through it with a mechanism down there to tighten it on here, tighten it in there so that this section doesn't swivel around. Now the last thing I have to do in taking this 1953 NSU Quickly apart is to get off the greasing points, and in any restoration that I've done I have always had fierce difficulty getting them out. So nothing has changed, this is the same, so I'll keep at it and try and get them out. Now you can see there's an electrical wire going right through the frame, and it goes along here, and I was just about to pull it out when I decided that maybe I would be better off to attach a draw wire to one end to it and to pull the draw wire through, so that when I'm putting in a new cable after it's being restored, I'll be able to pull the wire cable through with ease. Okay, I've just managed to get one of them down there, and what I've done is I've put it into the vise and I've used a long bolt like so, sitting on top of that there, and I managed to drive it down. Thanks be to God. I undid the nut that was here, so the spring unit now should come down, and that's it, and that's where the bolt actually goes into to keep the spring in place. This is the greasing unit that came out. That's the greasing nipple there, and the grease comes out in here, so we'll have to clean all that off. So I'm going to turn it around now and get the other one out. This is the light shell, and I'm going to clean it off with a wire wheel. So this is what it looks like before I start. Right, this is what it looks like now after cleaning it with the wire brush. So now I'm going to put Q-rust on it to stop it from rusting. That material now will turn it black like that. Now you can see the reaction on the metal. It's bluey kind of a color when it's put on, and then it starts to go black. There's another piece that I did earlier which has gone completely black. This is the NSU Quickly 1953 frame that I've just cleaned off with a wire wheel. I'm now going to put Q-rust on it. Now I've just treated it with Q-rust. It's made by Hammerite. This is it, and it turns the metal black. So hopefully once it's painted correctly there should be no problem with rust, hopefully. Right, I'm undercoating the frame there now with grey primer. So it's looking. Frame is primed now and hanging drying, and I've just finished the front mudguard and I have it with Q rust on it. You can see that it's a kind of a blue colour when it goes on first, and it turns black as it dries. Now I have the rear mudguard with the Q rust on it, and it's drying. Two of the mudguard stays as well. I've painted the frame, and I've painted the other mudguard today. Now I have the swing arm undercoated, the brake lever with the Q rust on it, some of the stays painted, and the rest of the stuff I've put into the shed for the moment. Now I'm going to start the engine next, take off the pedals. I just noticed that one of the pedals at the other side is after being welded together. But that's okay, we'll deal with it. This is the engine off of the 1953 NSU Quickly. I've taken all the holding bolts off there now, and I'm actually taking off the first casing here. For some reason the pedals keep going around, so therefore there's something possibly broken inside. The piston for 1953 is in amazing condition. The rings are still flexible. Right, I'm having trouble getting this clutch cup off at the moment, so I'm just checking to see what else is important, and there's a little washer here, and I notice, I'm almost certain that this looks a bit different from I've done previous engine disassembly and reassembly, but it looks as if that's slightly different there, but it'll become apparent later on anyway. I must try and get this cup off now. Right, this is the reassembly of the 1953 NSU Quickly. That's the front swing arm, and these are the component parts for the bottom section, the suspension. So we have 14, 15 and 16, which is 14, 15 is the grease nipple and 16 is the nut. And then we have the linkage, the spring, the cone section at the top, and the screw that holds it in place. And this actually fits down onto this here. You can see that there's a little section there that it winds into. So that's going to be the first thing to do now. Right, this section here threads into that. Well, it's supposed to. There we go. And that will go up that way, like so. This is the front. This is the front. Then this bolt will go through there and through that. I'll do the same with the other side. I've just threaded it in there now. So this is the front and that's the rear. That goes up there like so. Right, we'll do one at a time. Okay, the two doors are in there now, and I haven't tightened up those bolts yet. I'm now going to try and get in those grease parts. I must just test it first to make sure the nipple is working for the grease to come out that hole. Now I haven't tightened the two nuts there on the bolts because the mudguard stays will be going on there, so I'd only be loosening them again. This is the toolbox. I have it undercoated. It's So I'm just waiting to finish spray paint that there now later when it dries off. Right, the next thing to do now is to get the mudguard assembled. So these are the front two mudguard stays and these are the two rear ones. This is the front mudguard. I've already attached the NSU symbol, which just has one little bolt underneath it. So that's that. I'll put on the stays next. Right, that's the mudguard attached there now in front, and when you're doing the early models, the toolbox is attached with that bolt that holds the mudguard in place, which is actually very awkward to get on. So I have two number 4x10mm with spring washers, etc., holding the stay, and the same in front. These stays here down at the bottom are held in with 6mm by 8mm bolts with spring washers, and I have the other struts tied on there with the 14mm bolts. So that's the front finished. Right, what I'm doing next now is I'm going to attach the main frame onto the swing arm. So we need to put in 21 5mm ball bearings around here first, and this cone holds it in place then when it's on. Okay, I have the 21 ball bearings installed there with grease, keep them in place. Now that's the main frame sitting down over that now, and it keeps the ball bearings in place. I now have to put in 21 5mm ball bearings here. So install the grease first and then I'll put in the ball bearings. Just need to spread it around now first. Right, 21 ball bearings in place. So the next piece to install now is this piece here, which is number 18 on the list there, and it has a curve on it to keep the ball bearings in place, like so. The next one to install then is this cover, number 19. And the next one to install then is number 20, which is this odd shaped bolt which I had faced trouble getting off, as you can see, and that tightens the whole assembly in place. So I'll come back to it once I have that on, because it may not go back on. It'll go back on, but whether it'll go all the way down now, I'll have to tighten it down to get the swing arm assembly complete. Now this is the saddle for it, which I just got, so I need to do a bit of cleaning up on it. Just that metal there, I must just clean all that up and install it then. I've just taken delivery of the petrol tank for the 1953 NSU Quickly and the carrier. And the carrier is a particular carrier in that this one is actually off of frame number 53536, but this is where the lock goes through here. But there's also some sort of a locking mechanism on this there. I must check out and find out exactly what it's all about. It appears as if there's a key goes in there of some description, so I'll have to try and open it. Anyway, they're finally arrived. Right, this morning what I'm attempting to do is to pull this cable harness through, and it actually comes through the frame here. so I've put a very light wire through and I've attached it there, so I'm just going to put some tape on that and hopefully I can get this. This is the only wire that goes to the back light, and then I need to get the rest of the cable out that hole there on the side, which should be an easier job. Right, I've managed to get the wire out. I had it attached to a wire, so now I must get this section back up through the frame and out there. Right, I'm pulling through the other section of the wire there now. There we go. That's the section that goes to the lights. This piece here attaches to the engine. So that's that. Right, that nut is in place there now, and the next thing to install is actually the lamp. That's the next thing to install, and it goes down over that there. Now that's how the lamp goes on there, and I must just put on the handlebar support next. Now I've got those bolts in position there now, and this is just temporary. It's just a bolt and a washer that I put in there to make sure that it all stayed down level with the last nut that I put on there, that one. Right, I've decided to make up a frame to actually hold the NSU Quickly while I'm working on it, reassembling it. It's very difficult once you put the swing arm on the front of it and the front mudguards to actually do anything with it without scratching the paint and everything. So I'm not a metal worker, I can't weld, so timber is the next best thing. So I've actually made up a frame to actually hold it. This is it, and I had to have those long legs at the front to actually stabilize it because the front swing arm was tipping it over. I was hoping just to have that section there, but I've bolted it on there, and it's actually very easy to move it now as well. I want to put it back into the house. If I wanted to, I could actually put caster wheels, 4 casters on it, and it would make it an awful lot easier to move it around. So that's it. That's what it looks like. These are the components for the rear mudguard. The 2 stays and the mudguard itself initially. Right, I've just attached the rear mudguard there now, and the 2 stays with 4x10mm bolts, washers, spring washers and nuts. I've attached the frame cover and 2 bolts. 6x15 is recommended, but I've actually used 6x20 as it was easier. So now I'm going to attach the mechanism for holding the stand, and that gets riveted in there. There's a little hole there. That's the next thing. Now that's the stand holding unit. I just riveted it in place. I've just installed the cover frame there that actually it covers the welding that's done around the stock there onto the main frame. So I've actually put on some wire to tie it down because it kept rising up to about here, so I'm hoping that when I take the wire off that will stay down. As I was tightening the bolts it was rising up, so hopefully it will stay down. It looks better when it's down. I've just installed the bracket for holding the handlebars. This is only a temporary nut that I've put on there just to keep it down while I was tightening these bolts. There's a particular bolt that goes on there, which is this one. Right, I'll put on the handlebars now next. Install the rubbers inside there. They slide down inside. There's a round end on it and a flat piece coming off of it. That's supposed to protect the frame, but they're stupid bloody things to get into place and to get to stay there. Whether they'll stay there or not, I don't know, but we'll see. Now attached the handlebars. Dome nuts on the end of this side here. That nut there, as I say, is just temporary. Put on the front brake and throttle mechanism there now. Now I've installed the gear change mechanism there, and I've put on the rubbers on the throttle and that. So I'm going to cover them now with some paper to keep them from getting all dirt. Now I'm just about to install the seat post. This is it here. That bottom section there, when that bolt is threaded, it pushes this section out and tightens it against this here. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try and put it on, hopefully in the position that I think it would be right for me, which would probably be about there. That tightened in position there now. I'm going to put the rest of the saddle part of it on now. Now that's the saddle in place. The rubber isn't looking great on it, but I'll be looking out and see if I can get a new one somewhere or something like it. Now the next thing to be put on is the carrier. The taillight has to go on now as well, and also the number plate. So I'm actually going to do the number plate next. I don't have a taillight, I'll have to get one, and I have the carrier, but I must make a small piece for it that sits over that hole. This is the carrier here. It's drying at the moment. The number plate bracket, and I have the petrol tank painted and it's drying. I've also got the what they call the Mickey Mouse stand. This one I had in my spares, and somebody has attached two. Normally these two little things aren't on it at all. Somebody attached it to give it a bit more stability, because the bikes tend to fall over if you don't stabilize them. I've just attached the NSU bell there to the handlebars. And I just put on the wheel temporarily yesterday, just to see what it'll look like. This is the front wheel for the 1953 NSU Quickly, and I'm just waiting on spokes to come from Germany. Some of the spokes are quite loose and I have been unable to tighten them, because down here, this is where you tighten them, but they're seized together with rust. So I've put on rust stuff, and I'll cut off the spokes that I want to cut off. There are a couple of them that need replacing. I've replaced two already, those two, but I didn't have enough of them. These are all the components for the engine here. I've cleaned most of them up. New bearings, new seals, all that. So while I'm waiting for the spokes now to come from Germany, I'm going to reassemble the engine. These are the component parts of the front brake of a 1953-1954 NSU Quickly. This is the return brake spring, springs to hold the brakes in position internally, and that's what it looks like in the back. Now that's the front wheel finished, ready for installation. When installing the wheel, this little circular piece here goes into that there, and then the main bolt goes through there. Now I've been looking on the book, and this is the front wheel mechanism, and this is the main bolt, and then number 19, it's all in German, but Abstandsluche is a spacer. I have a box of wheel spacers, so I just have to figure out. It doesn't say what size it should be, so I'm just going to fiddle around with the ones I have here and put one of them on. And then number 20 is another spacer, probably a washer. It just says intermediate spacer when you, number 20, when you break it down to English, it's an intermediate spacer. And that's it, then there's nothing at the other side. So the spacer, there's nothing to go at that side. The spacer goes in here. What's happening at the moment is that the spokes are getting caught on a nut behind that. You can probably see it there. The spokes are getting caught on it. Right, that's the front wheel in place, and the brakes are working. So that's how it's looking at the moment. Now in this casing here, I'm just after putting in a new seal, an oil seal there, and a new bearing there. That's a 6202. And the oil seal is 2035-7. I've just installed a new bearing there on this section, which is 6201. That's it there. Now there's an oil seal there as well, but I'm actually not going to change it because it can be got at after if necessary, but at the moment it is very flexible, and the new seals for here, I actually don't like them. This is actually the new seal that goes in there, but I just don't like to use them, so I'm going to leave the original one because it's okay. Right, on this part here I've just put in a 6202 bearing and a 6201. There. And I've put in a 15-24-7 seal on the outside. There. Now I think I'll replace this one as well. I've installed the crankshaft. I've installed this mechanism here, which goes into the bearing. This goes into that there in a minute. I was just fitting. There's a washer goes down there, and there's a washer on top. But as I was fitting it, I just spotted that one of the fins is broken off on top. It's okay on the bottom. So I'll have to replace that. We'll have to go to the spares box and see if we have a good one. I found a good one, so I can install that one there now. Now the engine is finished, except for the spark plug cap, which I'm waiting for from Germany. I have ones alright, but they're the more modern ones. So I've just put oil in it, and hopefully I've done everything correctly, and I'll be attaching it to the bike next. The carburetor that I've cleaned up, and this is the bike. I've just attached the front brake there now. It goes in here last. You put it in on the handlebars first. Put that little pin down through it. And I did push it up from underneath, and in the frame here there's a groove where it comes up. And it comes out just there then. And it's ideal, it doesn't get caught on anything. These bloody rubbers that are supposed to be here, they're absolutely stupid. The reason they're there is to stop this from hitting off of this here and damaging the paint, etc. And it's after shifting now inside again, and the one at the other side is after cracking, and it's damaging the paint. See, they're absolutely stupid. I'm contemplating actually putting something here on the frame where this hits it, just up along there. I'll see. Anyway, that's the handbrake in place. And it's working very well. I'm now undoing the bolts that's holding the bike onto the assembly frame, because I have the engine finished and I'm going to attach the engine, so I'll be standing it on that bicycle frame there. Now it's off of the assembly frame. I've just shoved it in under the lawnmower there, and I have it standing on a bicycle frame. I'm now going to attach the engine. This is it here. I'm attaching the engine there now. I'm installing the first bolt there, which goes right through the frame and finishes off at the back there. There's no nut goes on it. And then the other two, this lifting handle goes on when those engine bolts go through. This little cover unit, I nearly forgot about it. It goes on here to close that section there. It goes on like that. Now, it's not going in for me at the moment, so I'll have to do a bit of persuading. And it's held here with the bolt that holds the engine, and another bolt goes in on top there. So I'll have to try and persuade it to go in now first. Right, it took a bit of persuading. Basically I had to separate that section there with a bit of force, and to do it I use one of those roll bolts and a trusty hammer. So it's in now. The bottom bolt of the engine is tightened, and it's tightened the other two there now. This is the carburetor that I took off of it, and it has the original cable, which is in good condition, so I'm going to reuse it as its original. And it has NSU written on it as well. So I'm going to attach it on there now. I have the gasket already on. I've just removed the tank there now because it was in the way. The throttle cable goes up there. There are little grooves on these things, and there's one at this side I'm not sure if I should put two of them at this side actually. Yes, I probably should. See, there's two grooves on one side and one groove on the other side, so I'm going to put... Will it work that way is the thing? No, it won't. Nope. This is the correct way for it. Okay. That's the way it goes. So I'll just strap that down now with a bit of tape. That's them held down with a bit of tape there for the moment until I put the tank back on, and then I'll just cut them off and they won't be seen. Okay, to get the throttle in there now, you have to remove it almost completely off of the handle. Turn the handlebars completely back this way to take the pressure off and the tightness off of it, and then you put the little nipple up through the hole, and I had to pull it with the pliers then to get it to come up over that, and then push it back into place and tighten up this bolt here. Now, as my hands are all grease, I don't want to be getting the grips destroyed, so until the bike is finished I'm putting paper over the throttle. So as you can see, it's working. I just need to connect it back into the carburetor now. Now I must connect the air hose to the carburetor, so I'm going to try it in two different ways. Actually, I must fix that there first now before I put that on. Now the air tube is on, I had to change it. The other one cracked across here, so this one, when I was putting it on, I actually heated it with a heat gun just to get it a bit more malleable, and it was still difficult. I had to undo the carburetor and bring it forward so that I could get it to go on. It's difficult. Now I'm just testing the throttle there to see if it's going up and down, and it is. You can adjust it with this here anyway. When the time comes for the engine to run, it'll be either roaring or just ticking over nicely, so that's the way to set it. Another good tip as well is to put on the fuel petcock before you attach the tank to the motorbike. I've just attached the petcock and I've put a strainer on it in case anything comes out of the petrol, and I have it now attached to the carburetor, so that's that done. I'm waiting on the cap to come for this to mimic the old one, because I ripped it out of the one that was on it, so I have to get another, what you call it, a cover to attach to the spark plug. So that's how it's looking at the moment. This is how the 1953 NSU Quickly is looking at present. Yesterday I was working on the cables, so I have installed the gear change cable, and the gear change cable, I ran it down through the frame. So before you install the petrol tank, you have to install these cables. I had to take off the tank yesterday, and I had to take off the engine. Luckily I had no exhaust pipe and stuff on it, so the clutch goes down through the frame, the gear change goes down through the frame. The decompressor cable goes down under the petrol tank, and I've actually put it under the upper rubber there, and it keeps it fairly vertical, because when it tends to go sideways it tends to come out. So that's another thing to do before you put the petrol tank on, is to fit that. Right, I've changed the colour of the lamp to silver because that was the colour of the lamps. NSU purchased the lamps from a company called Union, so therefore they were always silver and they never changed the colour of them. So the throttle cable I had done earlier goes down under the petrol tank and it runs along the groove on the rubber here and down into the throttle. I put on the casings yesterday evening just to tidy it up on both sides, but I must take this one off again because I need to paint it to match this vehicle. Just going to take off this cover here now. It has one bolt holding it. It's a bit tight, so I need both hands, and then that will show where the clutch cable comes out. This cover plate that I put on earlier underneath, which is held with one engine bolt, and there's another bolt that runs across here from the other side, and it holds, this section here is threaded, so the bolt actually holds this in place. That's the bolt there at the other side, so I'm going to take that off now, and the casing at the other side, the clutch side, will come off. This one here just has one screw on it, and I'll take that off now. Right, you can see the gear change cable coming down. It comes down through the frame from the other side, and it comes out here, and it goes through a hole here and out into the gear change mechanism here. The other thing I did yesterday was the wire for the engine. It goes down through a little hole here and down here, and it connects here. That screw there is the screw to screw it on, so that works the lights. At the other side then, I must undo the screw first before I can go to the other side. Right, as I said, the clutch cable goes down through the frame, comes out, and you have to have the engine off to get it down, and then you bring it out here, through here, and in most cases they're actually too long, so I had to cut off the nipple that was on it and attach one of these nipples here to be the correct distance, so that when I pull the lever up here, it actually works the clutch properly down here. The rear light has arrived this morning from Germany, so I'm going to install it now. Now that's the tail light installed. It looks a small bit crooked, so I'll have to release it again. I've just I had to cut off the old lock that was on it. It was still inside in the holder, so I had to cut it off to put in the new one. So this is where the lock is kept when you're traveling, and then when you want to lock the wheels, you put it through the spokes like so, and the spokes are locked. At the moment I'm after getting the new exhaust pipe, which I've just temporarily attached there with a 6x20mm bolt. Originally when they were installed they were threaded into the back, but whoever had worked on this bike previously had damaged the thread, so I'm actually using a nut and bolt right through with a spring washer. And there's a union connector, this section, the nut to tighten it, and a washer. And the washer goes in there. So I'll install that section now first. I've only just temporarily put that on. As you can see now, there's a a fair bit of this pipe to go into the other one, so I'll just take off that again. I haven't tightened up. This is the spanner. It's a special spanner for tightening the nut. It can be done other ways, but it's better to get this spanner to do it. Locks on like that. That's it in place there now. Tighten it up. It needs two hands, so I'll get back to it again. That's the exhaust pipe in place now. I'm just installing the rear brake there now. It goes in there, and it goes in there. I'm putting stainless steel cotter pin to hold it in place. Right, on Saturday when I was trying to start it, I had issues and I couldn't get it to start. I have the petrol, I had to change the fuel petcock and new hose. I've installed petrol and it wouldn't start. So what I've done was I contacted somebody that knew something about electrical stuff to do with motorbikes, and he told me that I needed to replace the condenser and to check this ignition coil. This is the lighting coil and this is the ignition coil, and I also changed the points, and I changed this here as well, which keeps dirt from getting onto different parts inside. So I'm basically putting it back in now again. Everything is working up to the spark plug unit, and I should have spark now. I had no spark, so then I'm going to have to do the ignition timing on it, which my friend has shown me how to do, so I'm going to try all that in a minute and see if I can get it to start. This is actually called the stator plate of the dynamo, and normally with these there's a mark there and a mark there, and I normally line those up. That's normally the way it comes out. In any event, the screw holes will only work around that area, and then you have to connect this piece here, which you connect the lights to outside. This is connected to the lighting coil here, and you have to install that there so it comes down through the rubber there where the high tensile cable comes down as well. So I've got the 1953 NSU Quickly going, and when I started it first, the throttle cable that I had on it actually broke. Throttle cable on now, so I must put it in under the tank to have it in the right place, but it's sticking over very nicely now. Right, the last thing I have to do now is to put on the chain. I was checking to see if it was going into gear, which it is. Watch the sprocket. First gear, that's second gear. That's neutral. Yep. So that's it now. Now the exhaust pipe is finished. I bought a new one to install on it, and it's the one that has the fixing already attached to it. I reconditioned the old pedals and they turned out pretty good. And what else have I done? I've just put on the chain. I'm using a new chain. It's 112 lengths. 112 links, yeah. And to get the chain on, you put it onto the back wheel first here, like so, and then you turn the back wheel, catch the back wheel and turn it, and it'll draw the chain on. So you then pull it over and get it onto the sprocket, and the sprocket is in neutral. So it'll turn around without any problem. And then you have to attach the splicer onto it, and that's about it. Put on the catch on it to hold it in place. So I have to adjust the back wheel there now in a minute, just to finish it off. And the only other thing to be put onto it then is the stand underneath. That's the stand bracket, so I have to put the stand on it, and that's the stand up there. So that's that. I've just installed it's called the Mickey Mouse stand on it there now. That's it. And that's the bracket then that holds it in place when you're travelling. So I must put on the side covers now, one at each side, and I've tried it out and it's going pretty good. This is video 8 in my series of videos on the NSU Quickly models. This is a 1953 NSU Quickly N with 26-inch wheels, and this is one of the original Quicklies. Some consider it the ultimate Quickly. Built in Germany from 1953 to 1955 when they changed the design. This particular model is in the first 4,375 ever built. It has a small 5.5 pint or 3.1 litre tank called a peanut tank. Petrol oil mixture 25:1, and the petrol cap is an original 1953 The early models, of which this is one of them, had the exhaust pipe on the left hand side, and it was changed to the right hand side in late 1955. And the possible reason for it being taken to the other side was that it's very close to the rear braking mechanism there. The rear brake cable or rod is touching it in places. Single seat with suspension. That's the only suspension on the rear. There's no suspension on the rear wheel. Mickey Mouse wire stand. That's what it's called, a Mickey Mouse stand, because basically it got that name because I'm lucky now that it's actually staying in that position at the moment, because it's not that windy, but it could fall over at any time, those stands. Even though that one has been slightly reinforced at the back there, it still falls over. Speedos were optional in the early models, 1953, 4 and 5. There was no speedo on this model. If there was a speedo on it, there would be a hole in that nut there and a special bracket to attach the speedo to it. Drum brakes front and rear. The front brakes are operated by the handbrake on the handlebars. 2-speed engine, just 2 gears. first and second. The frame numbers of the early Quicklys were located here on the stock on the left hand side under the saddle. You can just about make out the frame number of this model there. The engine number on the early models was on a plaque on the side of the engine. The locking mechanism for the bike is located here at the back. So you take this out when you go someplace, and then you insert it in here and across under the spokes. And you lock it. And it's inclined to fall over there now as I'm at that. So I'll just have to stand it up again. So now, technically nobody could steal the bike. Primitive, but for the time it was okay, I guess. Chain driven. The exhaust pipe for the early models as well had the bracket attached and welded onto it. So if you restore a 1953 or 4 or early 55 model, this is the type of exhaust pipe that has to be on it. Two-tone colour, painted wheels, front and back, and the most of the bike was light grey colour, and the petrol tank is what they call a dove grey, even though it looks slightly purply brown, but it's dove grey. Pump was located there at the back. These straps here were included for if a woman was riding it, that her skirt wouldn't be getting caught on the spokes. And here we have what's a lifting handle, which is part of the mounting bolts for the engine, which was used for lifting the bike up steps if you had to go up steps, if you were going from one area to another and there were steps. The toolbox was located inside in the front there. So that's video 8 in my series of NSU Quicklys. This is the 1953 UR Quickly, UR Quickly it's called in Germany, which is one of the early models, and as I said, this is one of the first ones ever made, number close to 4,375.